is, in this case, Hunter Biden, without interruptions from Democrats. And the Democrats get an hour, the Republicans get an hour, the Democrats get an hour, the Republicans get an hour. In other words, and also there are not things that would be off limits in a public hearing, so that makes it very, very critical. But no, the media mob has done the bidding for all things Biden, and they have been out there lying to the American people and saying, oh, James Comer, Jim Jordan, Jason Smith, oh, they don't want to do this in public. They just want to sneak this in behind closed doors. Now, that's standard operating procedure. So Hunter goes out today and he gives his big press conference. I'm going to play a lot of this for you throughout the first hour, the second, and the third hour today. And, you know, what's interesting about this is he says, you know, that he acknowledges he made mistakes in his life. I'm proud of my efforts to forge global business relationships, blah, blah, blah. That was baloney. But the most important thing that he said is that my father was not financially involved in my business. Now, why is that the most important thing that he said to me? Because this story has been evolving again and again and again and again, because it started out as Joe Biden as a candidate, and even recently, I've never once spoke to my son, my brother, or anybody for that matter about the farm business deal. Now we know that that was a complete and utter lie. Kevin Archer testified at least 20 times that he knows of, maybe more, that in fact Hunter Biden, his farm business partners, Devin's farm business partners, got on the phone with Joe Biden. We have also email evidence that shows that Joe Biden thanking people for feeding them. We have chronicled dates and times of meetings that took place in both the White House and other places. We know that, in fact, Joe Biden, we have photographic evidence of him meeting with some of Hunter's farm business partners, like the Russian oligarch, former First Lady of Moscow, Lady Baturina at the Cafe Milano, and other foreign business partners, again at the Cafe Milano. So Joe Biden told one big lie. But the first statement was he never spoke to his son, brother, or anybody. Then it became, they never spoke about business. They might have talked, but they only talked about the weather. Remember Dan Goldman sounded like an idiot making that statement. And then it became, the president's never been in business with Hunter. Then it evolved into that. He's been never involved in anything. And today it became, my father was not financially involved with my position on Burisma, or anything I had to do with art. Let's play the evolution of a lie. Why did I say lie?
Have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings.
I've never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else any business.
One of your son's former business associates is claiming that you were on speakerphone a lot with them, talking business. Is that what?
Never talked to these men. And I knew you'd have a lousy question.
Why is that a lousy question?
Because it's not true.
Curious if the White House and the president still stand behind his comment that he's never been involved and has never even spoken to his son about this.
So I've been asked this question a million times. The answer is not going to change. The answer remains the same. The president was never in business with his son.
Can you categorically say that the President of the United States was not involved in those business dealings and did not profit from any of them?
From our side of the equation, I can tell you that Hunter did not share his business with his dad. I can tell you that he did not share money from his businesses with his dad.
Why do you interact with so many of your son and brothers or business associates?
I'm not going to comment on that. I did not. And it's just a bunch of lies.
You didn't interact with many of their business associates?
I did not. There's lies.
Let me state as clearly as I can.
My father was not financially involved in my business, not as a practicing lawyer, not as a board member of Burisma, not in my partnership with a Chinese private businessman, not in my investments at home nor abroad, and certainly not as an artist.
Now, both Jim Jordan and James Comer put out a statement today saying the following, that Hunter Biden today defied lawful subpoenas and we will now initiate contempt of Congress proceedings. We will not provide special treatment because his last name is Biden. Our committees were prepared today to depose Hunter Biden. He chose to make a public statement on Capitol Hill instead, where he said his father was not financially involved in his family's business dealings. Exactly how was Joe Biden then involved? Evidence shows, in their statement, they say evidence shows that Joe Biden met with Hunter's business associates, and his name was at the center of the family business strategy. Today, the House will vote on an impeachment inquiry resolution to strengthen our legal case in the courts as we face obstruction from the Biden White House and from witnesses. Today's obstruction by Hunter Biden reinforces the need for a formal vote. President Biden and his family must be held accountable for their corruption and obstruction. We will provide that to the American people. The deposition is a standard investigative procedure used by attorneys and congressional investigators, and Democrats have used depositions in their investigations, including Adam Schiff and the impeachment inquiry. Even Jamie Raskin emphasized the importance of depositions. Now, Hunter did say, I'm here, I'm ready to testify at a public hearing. Well, the public hearing was granted to Hunter Biden after the deposition, which is the normal procedure. By the way, this exchange is beginning with Peter Ducey and Corinne Jean-Pierre.
Going to say today, look, he's proud of his son. He and the First Lady are proud of his son, how he's rebuilding his life back. He's going to focus on what is needed on the American people. Hunter, and I've said this many times, is a private citizen, and so certainly I would have to refer you to his representative. I'm just not going to get into private conversations because what you're asking me is actually a private conversation. I'm just not going to.
First briefing since Hunter was indicted again in Los Angeles. Why doesn't President Biden just pardon him?
The president, I've been very clear. The president's not going to pardon him.
And one more about this Ukraine money for border policy negotiations. In the last 24 hours, 10,000 illegal border crossings, southwest border. Would you admit that the border policy, the Biden border policy so far has not worked?
What I will say is that we have known for decades, that the immigration policy is, the immigration system is broken. We've said that over and over again. That has been.
All right, let me go back. If there's any more exchanges regarding Hunter, I'll get to that too. But now, Hunter said there's no evidence to support the allegations my father was involved in my business because it did not happen. Well, there's a lot of evidence to the contrary that everybody in the media seems to want to ignore. First, we've got to start with the initial lie and the shifting and changing narrative and the moving of goalposts that continues to happen here. Now it started out, I've never spoken with, I never talked to, I've never been in business with, he was never involved, this is all a bunch of lies, and today that is now evolved into he was not financially involved. Okay, but the problem is in Hunter's laptop, he implicates his own father. What does he say? Half his income goes to Pops. What does he say? He talks at length with Eric Sherwin about paying for Pops' home repairs, and he complains bitterly about that. What did we learn? What did we learn from Tony Bobolinsky? We learned that, he was the big guy. So that's Hunter implicating his own son in a series of ways. So the idea you start with, I never spoke to, never was involved in, never had any discussion with, and it becomes never financially involved with, wasn't in business with, just doesn't fly. Both Joe Biden and Hunter Biden both lied when they said, lied about talking, but they also lied. They said they got no money from China. And in fact, James Comer's committee has identified the $5 million after the phone call of the WhatsApp message, I'm sitting here with my father. So that brings his father into the business. It brings his father into the business when he's meeting a partner from Russia, a former Russian, a president Russian oligarch, former First Lady of Moscow, and other foreign business partners that Joe met with and Joe got on the phone with. And the idea that monies went directly to Joe from Hunter, from these foreign business deals, yeah, that would all be very, very relevant. And the idea that Hunter is trying to obfuscate all of this by saying, well, I'm here and I'm ready to testify at a public hearing. Well, what are Republicans afraid of? They're not afraid of a public testimony. after he follows through on the standard procedure, which is to first be deposed and be deposed behind closed doors, the way they did it to the Trump family. Exactly the same way. Now you're saying, okay, now they're going to move forward with contempt of Congress initiatives here. Well, that's what happened to Steve Bannon. That's what happened to Peter Navarro. When they didn't testify, when they were subpoenaed before Congress, why should it not happen to Hunter Biden? The reason they want to do it publicly is a lot of the information likely can't even be asked in public. But there's a lot of questions. Why were there all these shell corporations? Can you show us any business that these companies were involved in? Can you explain why 10 Biden family members received payments from these foreign entities? Can you explain, any of the issues in,
Okay. Whew.